If relationships are the real currency in life, if referrals are the lifeblood of business, how do we, the entrepreneurs, the small business owners, compete in this ever-changing, fast-paced world? How do we become more so we can attract more? My name is Lewsey, and I'm your host. Those are the questions, and in this podcast, we will reveal the secrets.
Welcome to today's Referral Secrets podcast. My name is Tony Crawford, and I have the distinct privilege of filling in for Lewsey, the host and founder of Referral Secrets, as we welcome today's guest, John Michael Morgan. Hey, John Michael is a best-selling author and an international keynote speaker. He is the founder of Achiever, a unique coaching program for leaders and entrepreneurs across the globe, currently serving members in 8 countries, and he affectionately refers to them as the Achiever Tribe. He's worked with some of the world's most successful brands, Fortune 500 companies, and small businesses worldwide. There's a saying, success leaves clues. John Michael is going to leave many clues, so take notes or check out the post below to capture those success clues. Let's go ahead and meet John Michael Morgan. Hey, John Michael, thank you so much for taking time out and joining us at referralsecrets.com today. Like I said, man, we are so excited to have you here. So you've got a story to share, and you're doing some great stuff. So let's start right at the beginning. Tell me how you launched your business. You created Achiever.
Yeah,
right?
that's right.
Tell me your story, man.
So it goes back when I was I didn't really go to college, tried that, was kind of bored, and then got into real estate and built a successful real estate business, but didn't enjoy real estate at all. It was more just an industry I kind of knew. My father has a construction business, so I sort of grew up, familiar with the process of, home building and buying homes and all of that. And was, again, had success with it, but just wasn't fulfilled. And thankfully, during that time, the success that I had with it, with building that brand and the marketing that we were doing, it got the attention of businesses and entrepreneurs completely outside of real estate, who were then contacting me saying, hey, can you help us? And I realized I had so much more fun doing that than I did, real estate. And so it was very much God moving me where he wanted me to go without me really knowing, what the plan was. And so basically, I remember very clearly my wife, who's a million times smarter than I am, just one day was like, with the money you're making coaching and consulting and what we make with the real estate business, like, it's probably time for you to go all in on this other thing. And so I sold the real estate company, and now I've been coaching and consulting and speaking and all that stuff for about 13 years now. And so I coach people, solo entrepreneurs to big, well-known brands, and we offer group, one-on-one, whatever, all of that.
Sure.
And I get to do it from home while I'm watching my kids grow up.
Nice, amazing. And you married your high school sweetheart.
I did, yes. So we met, we were 17. And in fact, just last week, we were in Disney World celebrating our 19th wedding anniversary,
Awesome.
24 years together total. Not a common thing these days, it seems, but one that I wouldn't have it any other way.
Awesome. So, John Michael, in your success, obviously you've had to build some relationships. Tell me what that looks like for you, and what's important about that relationship building and being able to connect with, whether they're solopreneurs, salespreneurs, or companies. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I didn't realize this until looking back a few years ago, but I was very fortunate in that my father, who, as I said, owns his own business, was one of those guys that he's going to make any stranger his best friend and really connect with them. And growing up watching that again, I never realized like, oh, he's being very strategic. He's being very smart with that. Like, I didn't understand that he's relationship building and nurturing that. It just seemed like, well, he's an extrovert and that's who he is and whatever. But it certainly was something that influenced me in my career, where I realized if you can get people to like you, then you can do things. And it's, the old cliche of like, we do business with people we know, like, and trust. I
Mhm.
feel like we miss the like part. Like, we're all about trying to get people to know who we are. Of course, we want them to trust us, but like, what about the likable part? And so, what I realized, and this is still my focus today, because I feel like I network and try to build relationships differently than a lot of people, is like, here's like the real tactical element. I look at the person and I try to decide or evaluate what's important to them outside of their career, because everybody connects with people on what they do. So that doesn't really stand out. And like, let's just give an example. Let's say that there's a well-known author that I want to connect with. If I try to write him on social media or email or whatever, and I let him know I'm a fan of his books and his work and whatever, like, they appreciate it, but they also hear that every day.
Right.
Instead, I want to look at their social media and realize, oh, they like this kind of music. And if I do too, that's my angle. Let's talk about the music. Because what I discovered is that if people view you as a friend, then they'll send you business, they'll promote your products and services. Friends help friends.
Mhm.
But if we're only ever talking shop, if we're only ever talking business, then they view you as a peer. And that's never my goal. I don't want to be viewed as a peer. I want to be viewed as a friend.
Right. That's awesome. I really like what you just said, that people miss the like part. What are some of the things, other than trying to get to know them through looking at their social media page? What's the other thing that you do to enhance that?
I think a lot of it is just, what's common sense. I think when we are in business, we think that everything has to be real complicated. So I
Mhm.
throw out any professional tone. It's like, let's talk like we're friends. And I think the other part of it is
Nice.
finding out what's important to them in their life, but also not being afraid to share what's important to you. Because if
Right.
they don't feel like they're getting to know you, then they're going to keep you at arm's length. Right.
Right.
Right. Well,
Right.
so
Right.
there's that element as well, where it's like, okay, I need to figure out what areas of my life I'm comfortable being an open book about, because that's going to let them know more of who I am and what I'm about, which then does tie into the trust part, right?
Right.
So we build that of like, they can let their guard down when they realize, well, this guy's got nothing to hide.
Right.
He's sort of sharing everything with me. So I think that's it. And then I think there's a key here that a lot of people in business miss, which is, well, there's two. First is patience. Real relationships, like, it's organic. Let it build over time. You're not going to contact someone on LinkedIn today and then be their best friend tomorrow.
Right.
Like,
Right.
but that's how a lot of people think. And it's like, well, why didn't that person send me referrals? And it's like, well, you've not given it time. You've got to,
Right.
let that build. And then the second part is be genuine about it. If there's someone that, oh gosh, like the sports that they're into, or the music, or whatever, like their hobbies are, I don't relate or like any of it, then I don't try to build a relationship with them. I don't fake it. I don't pretend. I'm in Nashville, Tennessee, and I hate country music. I don't pretend to like country music just to try to network with someone, who may be a big fan of it. It's like, you know what, that's not my thing. So that's either I'll find another way to connect, or I'll just find someone else. So I think
Right.
there's like that authenticity and patience that sometimes people, they won't play that game long enough to then let the referrals hit.
Right.
And the truth is I'm sitting here now, like, I don't do paid advertising. I have a waiting list of people that want to hire me, and it's all referral.
Nice.
And it's
Right.
all just because I'm super focused on the relationship. And like I said, I'm willing to not build a relationship with someone just because they're a big name or they're a good prospect, if we don't genuinely have some connection points.
Right. Wow. And I am taking mad notes here. Mad notes. So, I want to back up a little bit here. You had mentioned earlier that you were in real estate, and so you began mentoring and coaching people, and God kind of led you down that path. And I was reading in some notes that you also do some mentoring and coaching with churches on
Yes.
top of Fortune 500 companies. And that's impressive in itself. The other thing, and I'm going to throw some stuff at you, and then
Okay.
you could just share it, whatever comes to your mind and it's put on your heart. But being in Nashville and you probably have run into famous people, or they've probably been in your circle. Sometimes people and they're given jobs or their careers or doing something that they're passionate about, they don't always want to talk about that. They want to talk about other things. So you really hit that on the head, because we're so focused on what people do for a living that we forget what is it that they are passionate about, what gets them fired up. So I kind of want to have you talk about your mentoring and coaching of different industries and different venues and knowing people. But I also want to know, and I want our listeners to know. So at referralsecrets.com, we want to help empower people to seek the tools they need to learn how to build solid relationships, to build those foundations. And if you're somebody that can help them with that, let's point them in your direction,
Right.
But what's John Michael passionate about?
Yeah, that's a great question. Great question, man. So I'm you know faith, that is one, I should say faith, right? That's the right answer. Don't hit me with lightning or anything. I better say that's a big passion of mine, and it is. And of course, family. Outside of that, I'm a huge Disney fan. Disney is a client of mine, but I've grown up going to Disney, and I create some art and all of that. So that's a passion. I love the kind of I listen to like rock music and everything, but I like my kind of music. I like movies. I love travel. These are the kind of things that if people are being strategic, they're connecting with me on. I'm a huge book nerd, and specifically like old books. And there have been some people who have wisely followed exactly what you and I are talking about and done it to me, and I know what they're doing, and I still fall for it. I had a guy a couple years ago who found a really, really old edition of Think and Grow Rich, and he knew that I collect old print editions of some of the self-help books and everything. Right. And basically he was like, hey, I'm going to be driving through Nashville. I'd like to give this to you, and if we could have coffee, that would be great. And of course, coffee turned into a half a day of basically free coaching for him, right? Because I was excited to have the book and and meet him. And it was that's what a lot of it's about. And you mentioned Nashville, celebrity, whatever it may be. I think the thing that we often forget is that everybody's human, and yes, not just is everybody human, but everyone in the planet, everyone wants the same thing, and that's to feel significant. Yeah. And if you can make them feel significant, you're going to win. Now, the challenge with that is how someone feels significant may vary from person to person. Mm-hmm. But that's always the goal. So every time I meet with someone, it's like, okay, how do I make them feel significant? How do I make them feel important? How do I make them feel seen? And we often, in the case of celebrities or big corporations or whatever, we assume they know it. We assume that they get it all the time. And it's like, no, they're more isolated than any of us. Right. They're sometimes the ones who are begging to feel significant more than the rest of us, because they may be disconnected from everything else. So that's what I try to do, is just like, how do I make that an advantage? How when I'm looking at someone, I'm thinking, okay, I want to build a relationship with them, or I want to strengthen a relationship. I just think, how can I help them? How can I make them feel significant? And sometimes it is as simple as I'll brag about their business. But again, for a lot of people, like, that's kind of the lowest level. That's the easy thing to do. Like, what else, can we do? How else can we, kind of shine the spotlight on them? And again, when we do that, it just opens the doors.
Right. Wow, so much powerful stuff here. I've already filled a whole page of notes.
Well, and
And
let me give you another example. And this is a complete like silly example. And I did it on
love it.
purpose for stories like this, right? So like when we're doing, these kind of things, I will look at someone, and this is specifically if so for all the listeners, if you've got someone that you're like, oh, I want to get connected with that person, but maybe they are a celebrity. And I say celebrity, I just mean it could be a celebrity in their niche, right? Like
Right.
just in their industry,
Right.
right? Just someone that's not just readily accessible. The thing to look at, and again, this is where the patience comes in, is you have to sit there and say, how can I contact them, or what can I say to them that's different than everybody else? Like truly like figure out how to stand out. So I'm a huge fan of The Rock. And for a while I was thinking, okay, what can I do to get The Rock's attention? I, just as a fan, just wanted his attention. That was it, right? Like that, that was my goal, and wanted to prove that this stuff works. And so I thought, okay, let me look. And if you look at The Rock's social media, you see that while he is engaging with fans, most people are talking about the same thing. Oh, we can't believe how much you eat. We can't believe how often you work out. And they'll talk about, the movies, and then like maybe wrestling. That's kind of it, right? So it's like,
Right.
okay, this guy's hearing the same thing over and over and over. So if I send a tweet to The Rock that says something about working out, like that is not on his radar
Right.
at all, right? Just like
Right.
not at all. So a couple of years ago, he won People Magazine's Sexiest Man Alive. And I noticed that when that was announced, he was actively on Twitter engaging with some people. So I thought, here's my chance to say what no one else is saying and completely stand out. So I wrote a tweet and I said, looks like The Rock beat me out for Sexiest Man Alive, but he seems like a
Awesome.
nice guy, so congrats on the win. So he retweets it and adds on there, next year's your year, my man. And all of a sudden, I'm getting text messages from friends of mine who are like, how do you know The Rock? The Rock just called you the sexiest man alive. Like, how did you do that? And it was great, but the only way I did it was no one was saying that to him.
Right.
Right. Like everyone else is just talking about the same things. And so for me, it was like, how do I say something completely different than what everybody else is saying?
Right.
And that's the approach. So that, again, with The Rock, that's like an extreme, mega celebrity kind of deal. But imagine taking that same approach to someone in your business industry that you're wanting to connect with.
Right. Right.
It's going to really stand out, and it can open a conversation, which is what we're all trying to do. We're just trying to get in a conversation with people.
Right. Do you find that people, they may want those conversations, but they struggle with how to start those conversations? And like you mentioned earlier, in starting them, are they being genuine? Are they being authentic? For me, I think that it's that 80-20 rule or that 3% rule. People are successful. You have just a few people that are successful in their industry because they are doing things that you are doing, or they've hired you as their coach.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I think you're exactly right. I love this question. I think the problem is they don't know what to say, or what they say is about them. Meaning, like, if I contacted someone and it was, hey, I'm John Michael Morgan and I do X, Y, and Z, and these are my accomplishments, like, who cares? Right?
Right.
Like, that's not
Right.
how to start a relationship.
Right.
It's like, instead, like, I got to make it about them. They are
Right.
their own favorite subject. So when I'm trying to get in that conversation, I am truly baby stepping my way, into that. I am not asking for a meeting or a phone call or a Zoom set. Like, no, I'm not asking for any of that immediately. I am simply trying to get on their radar to the point that we converse to a level where they recognize who I am.
Right.
That's
Yes.
when I can find my window, to go in. So if I contacted, like, gosh, this happens on LinkedIn a million times a day, right? Like, people will, just send you the message and it's like, oh, I help coaches with high ticket offers and blah, blah, all, and it's like, you don't know me. You don't know anything about me. Like, I'm never responding to that message.
Yes. Yes.
Right? I am never responding to that message. Whereas if someone, let's do a little role play. Like, so let's say you sent me a message on LinkedIn and you said, hey, that recent article you posted was really top notch. Just wanted to let you know I really appreciated it. So at the very least, I'm going to maybe write back, hey, thanks, appreciate it. Then you write back and say, what's your next article going to be about? Or what inspired you for that article? Like, get in that conversation, like start talking about writing, start talking about whatever, rather than, oh, by the way, I'm from referralsecrets.com and I'd love to talk to you about what we do, right? Like
yes,
that
exactly.
time will come, right? Like that time will come. And I mean, you guys know this because you know that the key to building referrals is never like the direct promotion, it's relationships.
Right.
And like, I think, so again, just to sort of summarize what I'm saying to answer your question, I think people don't know what to say. And I think too often it sounds like a sales pitch.
Right.
And we've all seen that.
Right.
So the good news is if we just talk to people, we don't have to worry about a script or a template or, being the world's greatest copywriter. It's like, just talk to them.
Right. Right. And it just doesn't carry into your professional life. It carries into your personal life, because if you're not taking care of those relationships, and if you're making it all about you, that what does that say? So let me just share a quick story with you.
Yeah.
So we had a washer and dryer delivery like 30 minutes ago, and I told the guy, I'm like, hey, I'm going to be in my back office, go at it, but here's $20. Why don't you and your friend there go treat yourself to lunch today? Oh my gosh, his face just like lit up. So what you put out there is always going to come back to you, right? And that's not why I did it. It's because to grow our business, we have to be likable, but we have to do it, like you said earlier, with authenticity. And oftentimes people are thinking, what can I get versus what can I give?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll give you, I love that example. So it inspires me to share this with you. The washer and dryer delivery, like such a great example. So this sometimes gets on my wife's nerves because anytime we have someone like that to the house, I'm asking them a million questions. And she's like, you don't need to follow them around. You don't need like all the, but it's me trying to put in practice. So I love what you bring up, because here's the thing, Tony, is that if we can practice in those situations that don't really mean anything, we've strengthened that muscle when it comes to business. So,
Wow.
right. So what I'll do is, so like when UPS or FedEx comes, they barely throw the package at the like first step on my porch. So if it's raining, like it's going to be soaked. But I've never got a chance to really talk to them, and it's a different person every time. But our mail carrier, she would come, and I would like one day she had come to actually stop and deliver a package, and I was like, hey, like, do they not even have AC in these trucks? I'm just like, oh, that's crazy. Like, we're just talking about the thing. And I'm like, what's the craziest thing that's happened on your route? We're just talking. So now when we have a package, she brings it all the way under the porch, makes sure that it's covered. I never asked her to, right? But it's like, now there's a friendship there. It's a different relationship. So that's the thing. It's like, if I go to a coffee shop, I ask, the barista, like, who's the worst customer you've had so far today? Right. And just talk to them. Just like, again, make them feel significant. Right. Like,
and that's exactly what you did with that mail carrier. You took the time to show her, you know what, I know you're a human being. Let me have a conversation with you. Let's make this real. And now look what she does. She takes care of the John Michael family.
Yeah, that's it. And so it's like, I just try to practice in those situations because there's really nothing at stake. You know what I mean? Like at worst, I'm an annoying customer or I'm a weirdo or whatever, right? Like at best, they feel like significant. So my goal every day is I just want people to be glad that they came in contact with me. Like that's it. Whether that's, again, a server at a restaurant or a client or, this, right? Like my goal is that, at the end of the day, you're like, you know what, today was a cool day. And I talked to this guy and that was a lot of fun. Like, that's it. Like, I just believe that if I do that more often than not, I'm going to be as successful as I want to be in business.
Right.
And so again, like I think when we have these business conversations, we get so intimidated because we're putting all this pressure on ourselves of I need this, I need the referrals, I need the business, I need this connection. And so it's like, okay, well then practice when it doesn't matter. Practice with the
Right.
employees at the
Wow.
gym, practice with, the stranger sitting next to you at church, practice again, like just practice when it doesn't matter. Here's a great one, man. So we just got back from Disney World and we drove because we buy so many souvenirs. Flying would be a nightmare. So it's, we load up and we go. So we get down to Florida and there's like the toll roads. And I know most people are mad that they're stopping to pay the toll, probably don't even make eye contact with the person at the toll, but right, like none of that. So of
Right.
course I pull up and stop. The lady's like, it's $1.25 or whatever it is. And before I hand her the money, I'm like, how are you doing so far today? And she starts laughing. And she was like, you don't even want to know. And I was like, oh my goodness. I'm like, well, I hope it gets better. So I give her the money. And then she's still laughing. And she goes, you just made my day by asking that. Now, I don't know what had happened that she was having such a bad day, but that was like a 20-second example of I'm not building a future relationship with that person. I didn't catch her name. There's no follow up or anything like that. But that's me trying to strengthen that muscle so
Yeah.
that when I'm doing that stuff in business, I'm not as intimidated, right? Like I'm not as scared to do it because it's
Wow.
like, no, I do this all the time.
Right. What a great nugget, man. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Whew. This is good, man. This is awesome. So you call yourself the achievement hacker. What does that mean?
Well, I discovered okay, so my transition from real estate to coaching was greatly about branding and marketing. And what I learned very, very quickly was that if someone has the wrong mindset, then all the great marketing and strategy and tactics don't really matter. They're going to find a way to sabotage that and mess it up. Now, this was another like God calling for me because my teenage years were very much wrecked with heavy depression. And during that time, it sent me on a journey where I was reading all of these self-help books and learning all this stuff about mindset, not because I thought it would ever help me in a career, but just simply trying to help myself survive and find happiness and self-esteem and self-worth and self-love and these things. And so what ended up happening was people may hire me because they're like, oh, well, we're trying to build this brand and we're trying to do this and that. But then the conversations behind the scenes were always about their mindset and getting their mind right. And so today, that's really what I do, which again was always funny to me because I told all my clients one time that I was making a shift. And I'm like, I'm no longer talking about branding. I'm only going to talk about mindset. And every single one of them were like, isn't that what you already do? And I'm like, oh, great. I'm the branding guy who doesn't have his own brand right, because they already thought of me more as like a mindset mentor to them than necessarily just a marketing coach. So to what this happens is I realize like every single form of achievement is based on our mindset. What do we think is possible for us? What do we think we're capable of? What doubts do we have? How are we, sabotaging ourselves? So, the real simple example to this is that you guys could take, one of your clients and lay out just a wonderful, beautiful blueprint to grow their business and have this like incredible, thriving referral network. But if there is a part of their mindset that doesn't believe that they deserve success, they're going to screw up your proven blueprint. Even though what you're teaching them, works, they're going to be like, oh, it's not working for me because internally something's messed up.
Right.
So
Right.
that's where it is like, okay, how do we achieve things? We have to hack our own mindset and get our mind right and set ourselves up for success that way. So we need the marketing tactics and we need the strategy. We need those blueprints. But in addition to that, we have to make sure that we aren't basically, sabotaging all of those efforts because we're full of self-doubt.
Right. So what happens to us? As little children, we believe that we can conquer the world. And then somewhere along the line, something happens. And now we're filled with self doubt, self sabotaging. we know what we need to do, but we can't get out of our own way. And even successful people could really take it to another level
That's right.
because they probably have that going on too.
Yep.
So, what happens and what is the just one nugget that you could give our listeners today on how to hack that?
Okay. You just hit on one of my favorite subjects because I'm very passionate about how, as a society in the entire world, so not just America, we basically take all the beauty of childhood and then ruin it. So you think about, school is not about encouraging free thought or exploring ideas or, trying new things. It's very much about, here's this assignment, here's the due date, do it this way, like,
Right.
all this stuff. And that's not even like what we want to do as entrepreneurs. We want the freedom, we want the creativity, we want to, kind of carve our own path. And so what happens is, as we get older, we get in an environment where the message is doubt. We're often surrounded by other people who they failed. So what happens a lot of times is that if you are doing something outside of someone else's comfort zone, they're going to doubt you. So it's like, oh, I don't know that you should start that business. Starting a business is risky. Well, they're only saying that because you're doing something that they're not comfortable doing themselves. That's why they have the doubt. I can sit here and think about people that, go bungee jumping. That seems insane to me. Why does that seem insane? Because that is not my comfort zone. Right? Like that's it. Like for them, it is. So I can't sit here and say, oh, people that go bungee jumping, that's stupid. No, that's outside my comfort zone. That's what's really happening. So how we can hack this is we have to get super disciplined on our environment. And this means a few things. This means the people that we're surrounded by, but it also means our online environment. So if I could give one thing that's going to change everybody's business in life, it is to listen to this and then spend some time the rest of the day going through who you're following and unfollow every single account that doesn't inspire you or motivate you or bring you to life. And if it's a friend or family member or client or whatever, mute them. If you don't want to unfriend them or whatever, just hide it so you don't see it. Stop consuming everything that you feel like you're supposed to consume, because our mind is basically like a garden, but every seed grows. So if we plant something negative, that's going to grow. If we plant something positive, that's going to grow. And so we have to become super disciplined on what we filter. And this is why I don't pay attention to the news. I don't get caught up in, the stress and anxiety of different things. I try to, be very, very focused on things that help me be the best I can be. Because again, when I come in contact with people, I don't want to be the negative guy. I don't want to be the guy with no energy. I don't want to come on this podcast and seem half dead or, negative or jaded or whatever. Like, no, like life is amazing if we look at it that way. Right. And so we have to, we all know we're a product of our environment. We just have to look at that and say, okay, what all is our environment? It's not just the people we're around, but it's also the social media that we consume, the email lists that we're on, the television that we watch, the movies that we watch. And, again, just being aware of what's that messaging. And when you start to look at it, you will realize a lot of that messaging is full of doubt and don't do it. And, these things. And it's like, that's really scary for us as entrepreneurs who are trying to grow and expand and, create a legacy. It's really hard to do when the whole time you're doubting yourself.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. So much good stuff. So I could probably spend a couple of hours chatting with you. I tell you, I can feel your passion. I can definitely see your enthusiasm for what you do. So thank you for bringing that today. I want to ask you a couple of more questions. I noticed on your website, you're getting ready to launch a podcast.
Yes. Who knows when? So we recorded a bunch of episodes, and it was actually set to launch right before the COVID pandemic first started. And so what ended up happening was, instead of launching it, I knew my clients were going to need me more than ever. So it was like, you know what? We're going to put that on pause. We're going to buckle down and focus on, making sure all of them are super strong and, thriving during this time. And
Wow,
so we did
nice.
that. And then, sort of coming out of that, I've been working on my next book. So then that was a priority. And then we're doing another event later this year. So then that kind of became a priority. So like the podcast will come soon. We've got it all recorded and in the can. It just, it was one of those things where I was like, you know what, I'm going to put it on the back burner at the moment, simply because here's some other things that maybe take precedent at the moment.
Right.
And, I'm big on trying to not be super stressed. And I think a lot of times we have 17 projects going on at the same time, and we're completely stressed out and we wonder why. And it's like, you know what? Like, there's no rush. Like, the podcast will happen when it's meant to happen. I don't
Right.
need to, force it while I'm trying to do all these other things and then I'm super stressed. Forget that.
Nice. Tell us about your book.
So the book is going to be all about mindset. And basically, my goal with it is to make it one of the most actionable books on enhancing our mindset and strengthening it that's ever been written. So basically, what I'm trying to do is, just continue to give people all these different principles that I've read, that I've tested, that my clients have used, that make our mindset what we need it to be, and give them the principles and then give them the tactics and let them understand that, like, this is like just a side note, but I think sometimes we have a lot of coaches and teachers out there and they're acting like the tactics have to be followed to the letter, and that's not true. Principles are what stands the test of time. So principles need to be followed. Tactics are where you have the freedom to make it work for you. And I'll just give an example of what I mean by this. It's a fundamental principle that we need a strong morning routine. We should start our day well. Now, whether in your morning routine you journal, meditate, pray, yoga, workout, or whatever, those are tactics. And that's where you need to say, I don't need to follow the tactics that everybody else follows. I need to figure out which ones work for me. But you have these gurus out there and they'll say, well, you need to wake up at 4 a.m. and you need to do yoga. And it's like, no, you do need to wake up early. You do need to do something that enhances your mind, your body, all of that. But if yoga's not your thing, then do something else.
Mm.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
If meditation is not your thing, then, just journal or read, or, if prayer is not your thing, then okay, again, like just go meditate or whatever, like plug and play. The principle is start your day putting yourself in power. The tactics are, what are those things that specifically trigger you? And I just think that that's a theme of the book, because too many people get caught up on the tactics and they put this pressure on themselves of like, oh, this guru told me that I need to be on YouTube. It's like, no, YouTube is a tactic. The principle is you need to create a lot of content
Right.
that you
Right.
absolutely need to be doing. Whether you do that on
Wow.
YouTube, LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, whatever, Instagram, like do you figure out what works best for you and what you like.
Right.
But the principle is put out a lot of content. Anybody who says, oh, it has to be YouTube or it has to be Instagram, forget, like, they're completely wrong.
Mm. Nice. Wise man. You are a wise man. So here we go. Here's the pressure.
Okay.
What's your favorite song?
My favorite song is a song called Alive by Pearl Jam. So Pearl Jam is one of my favorite bands, maybe my favorite band, and a song off their first album called Alive. Now, I love this song because of the depression that I mentioned when I was young,
Mm-hmm.
which I was going through actually when that song came out. But that song has a really cool story where it was written in like a negative way. So the chorus, one of the lyrics is, Eddie Vedder singing that he's still alive. And when he wrote it, like he almost meant it as like, that's a bad thing. He had gone through this trauma, like, why, continue. But he noticed at concerts, the way the audience sung it to him was like, heck yeah, like we're still here. We're still fighting. We're still alive. And so the audience, the fans changed the meaning for Eddie Vedder. And so that's a really cool thing to me, that the artist that created the art, like the meaning changed to something very empowering, based on the audience. So that's definitely, I would say, my favorite song. I mean, I could, I don't know, if you ask me tomorrow, maybe I pick a different one, but but it would probably still be a Pearl Jam song.
Right. So, is there a book that changed you when you were going? You said, during your teenage years, you were reading a lot of material, and good
Yeah.
for you that you recognize that such, early on, because I'm sure you're experiencing now since COVID that depression is at an all-time high,
Yeah.
right? So is there a book that actually really spoke to you?
Yes, could talk about this all day and give you a list of 100 books, but I
Sure.
will. And I know you asked for one. I'm going to give you two, just
Okay.
because it's hard for me to say which one of these impacted me greater, because both are certainly responsible for my success and just happiness. And so the first is a book called The Greatest Salesman in the World
Right.
by Og Mandino,
Yeah.
which is a book that I reread frequently. Um, it's a unique book because there's instructions on how you're supposed to read it. Just as sort of a footnote here for the listeners, the book contains these 10 scrolls, and the author says, take scroll number one, read it 3 times a day for 30 days, then scroll number two. And everybody skips this because it's like, who wants to read a book like that for 10 months? I will say this: every time I have done it, my revenue has doubled. And
Wow.
I recommend this to all my clients. Of course, not all of them do it, but the clients that have done it, they've experienced the same thing. So it's super hard. It gets boring. It gets redundant, but I cannot stress enough how there's like magic in that book. So good read, even just if you just read it once through, like it's still going to have, a powerful effect. But that book certainly continues to change my life for sure. And then the second one that I think ties into a lot of what you and I have talked about today is a horrible title, but the book is called Psycho Cybernetics by Dr. Maxwell Maltz, which is all about like your identity and kind of your personal narrative. And I remember the first time I read that book, I was in an airport. I can't remember where, but I remember I was sitting on the floor in the airport, and I called my wife and I was like, "Hey, honey, I've got good news and bad news." And she's like, "Okay, like what's the bad news?" And I'm like, "The bad news is I'm the reason we're not successful yet. Like that, like it's all on me. like it's not industry or economy or whatever. Like it is all me." And she goes, "Okay, well, what's the good news?" And I'm like, "It's all on me to fix it. Like it's all like capable for me." And that book just transformed me, and certainly transformed our financial success, my self-worth, I mean, again, like it's a book that I just listened to it again on the road trip to Disney, because I'm just always trying to, stay, again, consuming the right stuff, right?
Right.
Constantly, feeding my mind the right thing. So those two books, The Greatest Salesman in the World and Psycho Cybernetics, it's those are easily in my top five books that have, again, not just impacted me when I was young, but they had such an impact that I still reread those today, because I'm still picking up nuggets and I'm still, getting value from them.
Right. Wow. Good stuff. So, do you, John Michael, have a mentor or coach?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I think it would be weird to be a coach and mentor and not have, someone also speaking into your life that, we all have blind spots, right? I mean, I
Right.
think that's the thing that sometimes we don't realize is that we're so close to what we're doing, we don't see, some of these blind
Yeah.
spots that, could do it. And so even any listener listening to this could come and spend the day sitting here at my desk just observing me, and at the end of the day would have suggestions of things I could do better. It's not like, oh, someone's hit this big success and now like they've done it and they've got it all figured out. Like, my goodness, the number of mistakes I make is absolutely mind blowing. So I have to have, mentors and coaches. So for me, one is my pastor, and that is,
Nice.
not just on the faith side, but also someone who's a brilliant author, understands public speaking and communication. So we talk about those things, right? And work on that. And then I basically have a mastermind of some gentlemen who some kind of do what I do, some do different things, and it's very intense. Speaking into each other's lives, the good, the bad, the ugly, and calling each other out when we need to, and just making sure that you're held accountable to those things. And
Right.
that's what it's all about. And I will also just say, because we've kind of talked about it, in many ways, unofficially, I guess, my wife is my coach. And I know that sounds funny,
No,
but
not at all.
yeah, but she has gone through all the training that I went through. I drug her to every conference. She listened to the coaching calls. She went through the courses that I went through, has read the books that I read. Like, she knows it all, as inside and out as I do. Right. So she's brilliant at, of course, knowing me better than anybody. So she can see those strengths and weaknesses. Now, there are sometimes I have to say, okay, honey, like, just talk to me as my wife and not, don't coach me, right?
Right.
Go
Right.
gentle, right? On whatever feedback that you have. But basically, yeah, man, I try to have surrounding in that kind of environment. I believe that these are the people that are allowed to speak into my life, which is, of course, like my wife and kids, because everything I do affects them the most. So my wife and
Yeah.
kids are allowed to like speak about my life. My mentors and coaches that I pay to speak into my life, my clients, because their feedback matters and it is a relationship, as we've talked about. So I care about them, they care deeply about me, like it, so they're allowed to speak into my life. And then maybe my parents, because they gave birth to me. So sure, they can, have an opinion every now and then, right? But
Right.
otherwise, no one else is allowed to. And what I mean by that is, if someone writes me an email and they didn't like something that I said online, or they disagree with me on social media or whatever, like that doesn't even register on my radar, because they're not on the list of people whose opinions I have decided I value. And so just again, part of that's that environment, right? And just really being clear on, these people are allowed to have an opinion. I will listen to their feedback. This other group of people, not so much.
Right. Wow. Good stuff. Is your wife actively involved in your business?
Yeah, so she homeschools our kids. So first and foremost, she
Nice.
deals, yeah, with that, and is brilliant at it. So, I often joke and say that we homeschool the kids, and I'm in charge of recess, right? It's not really we, it's all her,
Nice.
right? So, she does that. When she's done with that, then yes, absolutely, she basically helps run my business. And my wife's super creative, so she's a brilliant artist, and had a photography business, and she can paint and write and all these things. So her help in my business is very much on the creative side of things. And we build out a team for more the like admin and tech stuff and those deals. But it's nice because I try to be in the creative zone as often as possible.
Right.
So this may be weird. So I don't know. Maybe people like to hear behind the scenes on this stuff. But like, let's say that I have an idea for content or something, because I try to write every single day. I'm very old fashioned in that I write on pen and paper, because I don't want to be consumed by.
Yeah.
Yeah, that right. There you go. So I write out my content by hand. Now I then give it to my wife, who will make sure that it makes sense, massage it, edit it, whatever, and then we can get it typed out to post. And then she'll figure out what photo needs to be with that, that post and all of that kind of stuff. So for
Yeah.
me, it's like, I just want to do the creative part and then hand it off. Then she takes that and adds her creative side, but also, more structures it and make sure that, it looks good for the brand and all of that. And then, yeah, we post it. Because see, if it was just up to me, my social media, for example, would be horrible, because I take horrible photos. So she's often like, please don't post that. Here, give it to me. Let me take the photo. let me,
Nice.
figure it out. So, yeah, so she's very involved in my business in that way. And truthfully, just being the sounding board constantly. Sometimes probably whether she wants to or not, we'll just be driving around, on a weekend, and I'm just like, here's this and here's that, and I've got this idea and that idea, and everything. And then she tries to organize that chaos.
Yeah, nice, good teamwork there happening for sure. Um, so if people want to reach you, well, let me back up. You also offer a group, right? Don't you have a achiever group?
I do, yeah. So I have a group coaching program called the Achiever Tribe, which is for entrepreneurs, leaders, artists, etc. And basically, we've got members in well, I was going to say 7 countries, but we had an 8th country sign up yesterday, so we're in 8 different countries in terms of members, and it's people in every range. We've got some people just starting out, so they're building their business, they're growing it, and then we've got some people that last year made over $200 million. So it's a wide range of industry and personality, but it is all about I do 2 coaching calls per month where I'm delivering a topic, and then we get to do some Q&A and all that. Then we have a private Facebook group where we share our outcomes for the week, so we have some accountability. We share our victories at the end of the week, like did we actually achieve those things? And then of course throughout the week I'm posting content and they're asking questions and all of that. And so it's content and coaching, but then there's the community aspect where it's super strong and it's a good vibe, because we won't let somebody in if they're not cool. It's a very family, feel, even though it's, again, people from all walks of life, which I love. It's very diverse. It's very exciting. So that's called the Achiever Tribe, which is probably my favorite thing in my business that I love working on.
So how do our listeners find out more about that tribe or more about you?
Sure,
Or
great.
any
Yeah.
upcoming events that you may be doing?
Yeah, I appreciate you asking. So if they go to johnmichaelmorgan.com, they will be able to find out about everything. So we will have through johnmichaelmorgan.com, you can find out about the Achiever Tribe, see how to join it, etc. And then also we have an event which we'll do sometime later this year, now that we can kind of gather again and do events, called Achiever Live. And that will be added on the site actually very soon. We're going to announce the dates and everything probably within the next 2 weeks. So just johnmichaelmorgan.com will let them know more than they would ever want to know about me.
Okay. The event that you're going to be hosting, is it going to be there in Nashville?
Yeah, so about 20 minutes outside of Nashville. We've done this before, of course, pre-COVID. And one of the things that we do is the city of Nashville is great, but everybody does the city of Nashville. So we go outside. We want to help small businesses. So
Nice.
we go outside of Nashville a little bit. And we rent a historic movie theater, and that's where the venue is. And then where that historic movie theater is, there is an entire like old school, like historic city block full of local independent restaurants and things.
Nice.
So we want to get like, I'm not against chains and all that. Like, man,
Right.
like, you should see my DoorDash receipts. Like I'll eat a chain restaurant, no problem. But for that event, we love that, like, we're trying to support the local businesses as much as possible. And that, again, was even before COVID. So it feels even more special now that we're going to do it that way again, because those people, like, they really need it, right?
Right.
A lot of these local restaurants and people who have, really struggled the last, year and a half. So so it's about 20-25 minutes outside of Nashville. And
Nice.
and it's a lot of fun. It's a 2-day event. And one thing I'll say, like, and this isn't promoting it, but just something that I'm passionate about, again, like, the theme here is, how do we do something different than everybody else? The event's mostly me speaking, because that's why people wanted to come.
Right.
But the other speakers are not professional speakers. Instead, they're clients of mine who are sharing what works in their business and how they're getting these results. So it is like legit entrepreneurs and business owners, not someone trying to sell a course or a book or whatever. Instead, it's like, these are real people running a real business who are completely pulling back the curtain and saying, here's exactly how I did it and how you can.
I love that. Yeah, I love that. And I love that you are making a conscious effort to support the local businesses, because local businesses, those small businesses, you're right, they need our business right now.
Yeah.
But not only that, they're entrepreneurs trying to make a living.
Mm-hmm.
And it is the small businesses that have driven our country.
Yeah.
And so I am excited to hear that you're doing that. John Michael, this has been awesome. You have been an amazing guest with a lot of great content. So let's wrap this up. You've shared how clients can find you. Do you have a favorite quote or some little piece of advice that may create a aha moment for our clients?
Goodness. I do have a favorite quote, which is an unknown. No one knows who originally said this, and I'm a big history nerd, and I have searched long and hard and talked to a lot of people to try to figure out where this originated, and literally nobody really knows. There's some false, attributions to it, but like they've all been proven false. So we don't know who said it, but the quote is, "Every day is a new life to a wise man," and that can sound kind of simple on the surface and very carpe diem and all of that, which some people kind of brush off. And then I think, but why? Because if you look at every day as a complete fresh start, then you're freeing yourself up from any mistakes that you made yesterday, any, oh, I should be at this level of success and I'm not. Like, none of that serves you. So if you truly can get in this mindset of like, oh, today is a brand new start, now what? It really changes things. And that's how I look at my business. I woke up this morning and I was like, okay, you just inherited this business. Here's where it is. Now what are you going to do with it? And like it almost creates this like almost a mental detachment a little bit from, again, the past or anxiety about the future or just any of that. And I don't know, it's just really good for me because I mess up a lot. So there are days that I'm like, you know what, today was not a good day.
Right.
But if I look at tomorrow as a new life, cool, fresh start.
Right.
Scoreboard's back to zero. Let's go.
Yeah, you know what I really appreciate about you is not only all the sharing that you've done today, because this is packed full of great content, but I love the fact that you're very open, you're candid, and you don't hide your vulnerable. Oh my goodness, get that word out, right? Vulnerability. You are not afraid to say, I mess up. And it seems like a lot of people out there pretend that, I mean, come on, look at social media.
Yeah, it's unreal. And I appreciate you saying that. That means a lot to me. So I really am grateful for that. And I think for me, the reason, and I'm sharing this because maybe it'll help the listeners embrace that in them a little bit more. I think for me, it's that. So first of all, I failed high school English 3 times, and yet I still
failed
became
twice.
there you go. You're smarter than I am, but I still became a best-selling author. And then I was in speech therapy for 7 years to get rid of a lisp that I still have. So I really shouldn't be speaking on stages and doing things like this. If you look at all of that, nothing should I have picked this career. Right. And I think because of that, there's a bit of this like, I've killed any ego of thinking that I'm good at it, because in my mind, it's like, oh, best-selling author. Yeah, but I still failed high school English 3 times.
Right,
Or,
right.
oh, you speak for a living. It's like, yeah, but that's kind of funny because I had speech therapy for all these years. Like, I guess in my mind, it's like, you know what? I'm just like truly just a dude trying to share what I believe works, what's worked for me, what's worked for clients. And that is my passion or calling. And so I don't get caught up in the, does this look okay? Did that sound okay? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. It's like, I guess for me, when I mess up, it's like, well, of course I did. Look at my past. So there's no pressure to try to, chase perfection in my mind, because I ain't hitting it.
Right. You're a humble man. It has been an honor to sit here with you today. I cannot wait for our listeners to hear this. And I just appreciate you so much taking the time and sharing. And I would love to have you again in the future, maybe after your book comes out.
Sure.
We'll get you back
I'd
on.
love to.
So, John Michael, thank you so much. I appreciate you.
I appreciate it. Thank you for the time.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, listen, you have an outrageously productive day.
I will, man. Thank you. You too.
Hey there, it's Curtis again. If you have not downloaded the 7 most powerful referral secrets, hop on over to referralsecrets.com. It's free. That's simply referralsecrets.com. Also, we give away prizes every week to our subscribers. So make sure you click the subscribe button. Thank you again for listening to another episode of Referral Secrets.